Nanny Doss.
From her track record, it looks that anyone who got on her wrong side, they signed their own death warrant.
Nanny is thought to have killed 14 people, all by poison. From 1945 to 1954, Nanny Doss uses her kitchen to kill 4 husbands. Victim Sam Doss is a typical study.
I believe he was a very quiet, very strict man due to his religious beliefs. He didn't let her play the radio, wouldn't let her run the fan at night, wouldn't let her go next door to a neighbor's house and watch TV. And he just got tired of having to follow his strict house rules and decided she wanted out of it.
One day, Nanny adds rat poison, available at the corner store, to Sam's favorite dessert, stewed prunes. Occasionally, among Dr. Nelson's cases is arsenic, the active ingredient in Nanny's rat poison.
Arsenic's been used for thousands of years. It's a naturally occurring poison. It comes in rock formations and you can extract it fairly easily. It's been identified as being toxic for literally thousands of years, and it's been used over the millennium as homicidal agents to knock off powerful figures and emperors and other figures like that.
Tasteless and odorless, arsenic moves quickly through the bloodstream. Within 30 minutes, Sam Doss's major organs will be contaminated. But this time, due to an overdose, Sam's body fights back.
If you ingest something that irritates your stomach, what happens is that the stomach essentially contracts in reverse and squeezes from the bottom up. At the same time, the sphincter, the muscle that controls the opening and closing of the esophagus, opens, allowing the food to come from the stomach up into the esophagus and then out through the mouth. And that would be vomiting.
This reflex action stops much of the poison from entering Sam's bloodstream. Although ill, he will not die.
He was so ill, I felt that he needed to be admitted to the hospital. And I don't recall exactly how long he was in, 3 or 4 days maybe, but he improved, got better, and we sent him home.
But Sam's days are numbered.
This time she measured it out and she got it right.
The smaller dose is carried swiftly to Sam's organs.
Arsenic is what's known as a multi-system toxin or a multi-organ toxin. It pretty much poisons everything.
Arsenic strikes at the core of almost every cell, energy powerhouses called mitochondria. Here, food is turned into energy, keeping us alive. It's known as the Krebs cycle, and arsenic shuts it down by blocking crucial enzymes. Sam's brain, kidneys, liver, and lungs are being starved of energy.
An individual who poisons a human being is sinister. To sit back and watch someone who's slowly being eaten away from the inside out is vicious. It's immoral. You have to have no conscience to sit back and watch someone, especially someone you know, slowly deteriorating in front of your eyes.
Under the cover of an anguished wife, Nanny admits Sam to the hospital. Sam's doctor is perplexed.
I had several specialists take a look at him to see if there was something that I was missing, and they couldn't come up with anything. But he continued just to go downhill and died. "14 of Nanny's family or friends perish. She defies suspicion for 27 years, but not for much longer. Sam Doss will have his revenge from the grave." After Dr. Heidi's late revelation of arsenic poison, Nanny is arrested and charged. But the real hero is a science forged a century before, across the Atlantic. A time when Victorian England is gripped by a poison epidemic, breeding their most notorious female killer. Will be Mary Ann Cotton, England's worst female serial killer.
By all accounts, she was pleasant. She'd been a nurse twice. She'd been a good nurse, a caring nurse. It's just that she couldn't stop killing people for gain.
On their first wedding anniversary, Frederick Cotton is in no condition to celebrate. He's dying of arsenic poison. Mary Ann poisons for profit. Burial insurance extends to children. The Cotton's year-old son dies of poison 6 months after Frederick.
You pay a couple of pence per month into a fund, and after a certain period of time, you will be allocated a lump sum. So you could, for the investment of, I don't know, sort of 20 pence over the course of a few years, you could potentially be seeing a return of 3, 4, 5, 10 pounds.
Early death and a pauper's burial delivers dividends.
Once again, my condolences, ma'am.
And because arsenic symptoms mimic gastric infections, common at this time of poor hygiene, Mary Ann is above suspicion. It's thought she poisons 3 husbands, a lover, her mother, a friend, and at least 12 of her own children and stepchildren.
Well, not just a woman, but a person who would kill her own flesh and blood would appear to me to be callous and ruthless. And in Mary Ann Cotton's case, if it was done for gain, particularly so.
A mother could kill her own flesh and blood if she is a psychopath or if she is insane. The psychopath is the individual who has no bonding or no attachments and no empathy for others. The only person who matters to the psychopath is the psychopath.
Criminal profiler Dr. Deborah Sherman Coughlin believes Nanny and Mary Ann share another trait. They were drifters, using distance to blur the pattern of their misfortune.
If you have one body in one jurisdiction and one body in another jurisdiction, if they're not talking to each other, Then you have what's called linkage blindness, where they don't see that these crimes are related.
The dead can speak, their bodies revealing all to the toxicologist. Mary Ann is sentenced to death by hanging. Her notoriety becomes a nursery rhyme.
Mary Ann Cotton, she's dead and she's rotten. She lies in a bed with her eyes wide open. Sing, sing, what can I sing? Mary Ann Cotton is tied up with string. Where, up in the air.
Night duty. Veterans Affairs Hospital, Northampton, Massachusetts, 1995. It should be a quiet time of convalescing, but one nurse will see that it's not. Kristen Gilbert murders her patients using the ultimate cover: her gender and her profession. In Massachusetts, she becomes known as the Angel of Death.
Do nurses in Northampton go to work every day thinking, oh, I have to be on the lookout for a serial killer? Absolutely not. They don't want to believe it.
Professionally, Kristen is smart, reacting swiftly in emergencies. No one knows she is creating them.
Henry Houdin was a 35-year-old vet. He was a physically healthy human being, and he had been admitted to the hospital because he had this severe case of the flu. Now, Gilbert, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, injects him with a dose of epinephrine.
The drug epinephrine stimulates the heart. It's commonly used to treat cardiac arrest, but it can also induce one.
The feeling you get when you run, which is increasing sense of your heart beating or palpitations, your blood pressure rises, you flush. These type of symptoms are exactly what you expect when somebody's given epinephrine.
Picture this. Epinephrine's injected into your arm. Your arm immediately gets hot and it starts burning. Your heart starts racing out of control and you go into massive cardiac arrest.
Kristen calls an emergency code, a hospital alert to the cardiopulmonary resuscitation unit, or CPR. Little does the CPR team know they will only make things worse.
All right, we're gonna have to shock him. Clear.
When a CPR team comes in the setting of a patient in cardiac arrest, one of the very common things you might consider doing is giving epinephrine, which would be a great drug to give in most settings, except in the setting of epinephrine-induced cardiac arrest. Then you'd be basically giving the patient a double dose.
If Gilbert gives an injection of epinephrine to kill this person, and the doctors come in and they give him more epinephrine, you tell me, how are they going to find out that she's using epinephrine to kill these people?
Incredibly, despite the double epinephrine dose, Henry Houdin survives. For the moment.
45 minutes go by. All of a sudden, another code is called by Gilbert on Houdin. He goes back into this cardiac arrest.
Clear.
Investigators believe she injected him for a second time. They save him again. This was a strong man. He fought for his life. He wanted to live, this guy.
Twice more that night, the CPR team is called to Henry Houdin.
He goes into massive cardiac arrest, but this time they just cannot save him. He goes brain dead. They cannot save his life.
Kristen's tracks are covered by legitimate doses of epinephrine. So why does Kristen kill people she hardly knows? Prosecutors believe her motive is ego.
During code situations, she was the go-to nurse. She was the take-charge nurse. She took charge of them codes. She gave orders. She directed traffic. She knew exactly what to do.
Criminal profiler Dr. Deborah Sherman Coughlin recognizes this behavior. It's known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Munchausen is a condition where typically it's a caregiver who will harm either a child or someone who's in his or her care, and then come in and act like a hero in order to get a high and attention and look like a hero. And they crave that excitement, and so they do that over and over and over again.
And there was one person Kristen wanted to impress more than anyone, her lover, the hospital security guard.
When she would inject her victims with the epinephrine, the security guard always had to come to the codes. He was required to do that. And she would flirt with the security guard when she was coding the victims and killing the victims.
During one code, one nurse reported, Gilbert was on top of a patient, straddling a patient like one would straddle a horse. She lifts up her skirt. "Look at my garter." And she wanted to show it off while a poor man is fighting for his life.
Kristen's homework doesn't surprise Dr. Deborah Sherman Coughlin.
What I found when I interviewed female serial killers was that they would get books on pathology, criminal investigation, forensic science, and then they would read that information, learn about that information, incorporate it into their fantasies first, and then begin experimenting and use that in their crimes. They learn all about criminal investigation and killing to find out the perfect way to do it without getting caught.
But Kristen does get caught, not by toxicology, but by traditional police work. She's serving 4 consecutive life sentences for murder. Some believe there may have been more.
Authorities explained to me that there's a possibility that she could have killed 75 people. If that's true, then she would be one of the most prolific serial killers in this country.
Kristen Gilbert, like Mary Ann Cotton and Nanny Doss, crossed a line few would dare, from fantasy to deathly reality. Marie Hughes tells a disturbing story of the time she tries to poison her husband.
Now, he has been complaining about, "Oh, I feel sick for years and years and years." Well, my mind turned and I said, "Well, I'll bloody give you something to make you feel sick, you bugger."
I think that sometimes we can get angry and we may think about, gosh, that person really upset me, and boy, wouldn't it be nice if that person weren't here anymore. But the problem comes in when you start taking steps to make that fantasy into reality, and that's what Anne-Marie did.
Anne-Marie's 4th marriage is in crisis. She believes it to be an irretrievable breakdown. Divorce is in the cards. She's done it twice before. This time, she chooses a different path.
I met up with a clairvoyant. She said that he wouldn't live a long life. And she thought it would be a good idea that Mr. Hughes should go. So it was her idea. She's the one that talked me into the oleander.
The clairvoyant strenuously denies any involvement. But for whatever reason, Anne-Marie buys several oleander plants.
What did I do? I cut the the leaves off because they're only miniature plants, only tiny plants about 18 inches. So I just cut the leaves off and just put the roots in and boiled it.
Oleander is a very, very commonly available plant. It grows on the roadside in many countries. It's planted by municipalities because they produce beautiful flowers and long, slender leaves, and they're very hardy and they grow very well.
They're also deadly, containing a chemical which, if ingested, disrupts the heartbeat.
Cardioactive steroids, like what you find in oleander, interfere with the way the heart depolarizes and repolarizes, the way the heart beats and relaxes.
Well, I just poured a little bit in, like that.
Anne-Marie believes her marriage troubles will soon be over.
I felt bad about it, but I said, I've got to do this just to show this man that he can be brought to heal like everybody else. I had approached him to go to marriage guidance counselling, and he didn't hear me. He never wore his hearing aids, and all I ever got from him was, "I can't hear you." In other words, he turned the hearing aid off so he couldn't hear. And I just said, well, something's got to give.
I guess tuning a car would be one way to look at it. If you time it a little too early, you don't burn your fuel efficiently. If you time it a little too late, you don't burn your fuel efficiently. If you time it far too much on either side, the engine just won't start. Altering it in either direction, which is exactly what a cardioactive steroid would do, could produce a malfunctioning heart.
The initial dose induces only a mild illness. Her husband's and her own reaction is not what Anne-Marie expects.
Oh God, I should not be doing this. And then I'd stop it for a while.
It will be the first of several doses. Anne-Marie is in torment.
It's not very pleasant trying to take someone's life. He was going through a lot of bad symptoms, and he said, "Oh God, if this is life, what is death?"
Fortunately for Anne-Marie and her husband, oleander's cardioactive steroids don't accumulate in the body.
So you'd have an acute poisoning, it would go away over the next day or two, and the symptoms you experienced would resolve, and then you'd have another episode of acute poisoning which would resolve until the dose got just right.
But Anne-Marie never gets the dose just right. In fact, when she isn't poisoning her husband, she's trying to save him with massage.
I did the cleansing of the stomach with the hands. That's, you go around across the top there and down there, and you follow the line of the bowel, and you get rid of all the stuff.
Anne-Marie finds herself torn between wife and killer.
Seeing how you're making someone suffer, and then, trying to do something about it. You've got, it gives you that you've got a dual personality.
For 6 weeks, Anne-Marie lives a double life until instinct wins out.
I went into one of my neighbours who was living next door and told them what had happened, and they rang the police, and that's when I ended up in the position I am.
Anne-Marie confesses and is charged with endangering her husband's life. While she's in jail, she's diagnosed with severe depression and slides further downhill. At her trial a year later, the judge orders her release on medical grounds.
Oftentimes these offenders have high stress levels in their lives. They're unhappy, they've been unhappy all of their lives, they feel put upon, they feel they have too many burdens. And so killing for them is often a form of stress relief.
It's mind-boggling what I went through. And now I look back, I wonder how I had the courage and the conviction to do it. But then when you're pushed beyond your limit with years of abuse, what else can you do?
Nanny grew up in rural Alabama. Although a friendly community, her hot-headed father kept her in virtual isolation. Socializing was forbidden. Mary Ann Cotton's childhood was also repressed. Already poor, her father fell to his death in a coal mine, plunging the family further into hardship. Kristen Gilbert had difficulties as a teenager. The more she became alienated, the more she developed a pattern of lies and deceit. Marie Hughes suffered unspeakable brutality from those she felt should have loved her.
My father-in-law continually raped me for many years, and I couldn't do anything about it because I didn't know what to do. No love shown. No love was given to us as children. I didn't know what love was all about. I still don't. I find it very hard sometimes to show any feelings. I can hide my feelings pretty well, don't you worry. I've had to learn.
Dr. Sherman Coughlin believes this early powerlessness begins a tragic, unattainable quest.
Because they have no control over their lives, they begin to turn inward psychologically, and they begin to fantasize about the perfect life. They fantasize about a Prince Charming, an idealized romance to take them away. Then they find out that reality is not as good as fantasy, and they cannot deal with it. And so their fantasies then turn from something that's pleasant, such as a nice family environment, to something that's a bit more dark.